Chapter 91, First Win. Upon hearing it, Jia Ruidao, who stood beside Tang Xiu, immediately reminded, "Brother Tang, my jade pendant." Tang Xiu glanced at him and lightly said, "Be patient. Since he has given the word and chance, I believe that they won't take it back." "All right." Even though Jia Ruidao was quite reluctant, he didn't dare to refute Tang Xiu. A strange expression emerged on Miao Wentong's complexion. He was also amongst the spectators and was quite surprised since he had never thought that Tang Xiu would be with one of the gambling parties. He knew that Tang Xiu was a cultivator and even an array master. But, never once did he expect that Tang Xiu was also a gambler. In fact, he was only being pulled by these few Jingmen Island business elites and was quite reluctant to be here. But now, his interest had been sparked. He knew that Tang Xiu had a heaven-defying ability in breaking through the formation array, and now he really wanted to see, how powerful could he be in gambling. At this time, Ouyang Lulu, with a middle-aged woman wearing her white gloves, appeared in the VIP private room's door followed by Chu Yi and Bai Tao. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my Paradise Club. As the name implies, this is a paradise for all of our guests. I'm sincerely hoping that all of you can play to your heart's contents in this place. I'll introduce myself. I'm Ouyang Lulu, the owner of this Paradise Club. And I must inform you that this one is the most outstanding gambling dealer in our Paradise Club's casino. I can absolutely guarantee that she will preside over the gambling house fair and square for all of you." Ouyang Lulu spoke whilst looking at Tang Xiu and Yi Taifu a few times with a smile. Clap, clap, clap. A warm applause echoed in the VIP private room. The effect and influence of a beauty had always been great, and if a beauty was added with an honorable status, the effect and influence would be even better. And Ouyang Lulu had everything, the perfect body and looks, everything was a world-class beauty. Only a few words from her and the entire hall was filled with applause. A graceful female dealer came to the gambling table and then spoke with a smile, "Have the two of you picked the game you want to play?" Yi Taifu replied, "Tai Golden Flower." The dealer's expression suddenly froze for a second before her lips let out a smiling expression. She was the best dealer in the Paradise Club and was experienced in presiding over important gambling games. But only a few people would play Tai Golden Flower in such a big gambling house. Moreover, there were only 2 players right now. She looked at Tang Xiu and asked with a smile, "Have you set the rules? How much deposit have you decided on? Stake increment for the stake increase? And how much for the upper limit?" Yi Taifu stood up with both of his arms on the gambling table. He chuckled and smiled. "This little brother is pretty much haughty, I guess, so I suggest 1 million deposit with the stake increment not lower than 1 million. Lastly, no upper limit." The dealer looked at Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu replied indifferently, "It's fine with me. Since the two of you have already decided, then, we'll respect and stick to these rules. Now, please show me your chips." Jia Ruidao quickly took the chips from his son at the side and placed them in front of Tang Xiu. He then spoke with a wry smile, "Brother Tang, because I've lost the game before, the remaining of the borrowed money is only 56 million. Take a look. It's sufficient." Tang Xiu replied lightly. Upon hearing Jia Ruidao's words, Yi Taifu, who sat a few meters away at the opposite side of the table, suddenly laughed and spoke loudly, "I thought today's gambling would be great. But you only have 56 million? Bah, it's so damn boring. Hey, Jia Ruidao, you're more or less also a famous professional gambler. Why don't you borrow again from others? Or, are you unable to borrow again?" Many people amongst the spectators had seen the gambling bout between Yi Taifu and Jia Ruidao, so they knew that Jia Ruidao had lost quite a fortune. However, the winner had always been hailed as the king and the loser would be regarded as the bandit, and people who lost money would never get the praises. In an instant, a conversation suddenly sprung. Jia Ruidao looks strong at the surface and weak inside, eh? How much has he lost? Only a few $100 million and he couldn't borrow money anymore? Is he unreliable? Or has he no good friends? He really gets what he deserves, only having such trivial capital but daring to continue gambling with others. He really doesn't know when to stop. A few days ago, I saw him lose and go broke completely, even staking the only memento from his wife. He even lost that exquisite jade pendant. I thought I could see a thrilling and matchless gambling bout today, but I never thought that Jia Ruidao was already broke to this degree. 56 million? Today's game will be over faster than before. Damn. With such a capital and he let that youth play. Isn't this the same as giving money to the other player? Even if I've seen such stupid act, I've never seen such stupidity to this degree. Bah, I regret coming here. Jia Ruidao was a professional gambler and had excellent gambling techniques. His hearing ability was naturally very keen. He could clearly hear those remarks from the spectators. For a moment, he felt so ashamed that even his old face turned scarlet as his eyes was full of a dejected expression. Even his 3 apprentices' eyes were blazing with anger as they glared at Yi Taifu as though they wanted to break his tendon, skin him alive and put him under the scorching sun. Tang Xiu looked at Yi Taifu with an indifferent expression and secretly sneered inside. One who stood at a high place might look high and remote, but once he fell, he would fall very hard. If only one were to lose in the gamble, then it was still fine. But if one only wanted to win a trivial fight and make light of the battle, even the slightest carelessness would cause him to lose everything. Perhaps when that time come, his arrogance would make him regret it to the core. No need for meaningless talk, let's begin. Yi Taifu arrogantly looked at Tang Xiu with provocation in his eyes before he sat back in his chair. He then spoke with a cold tone, begin. Ding. The dealers nodded and sounded the bell. Immediately, the entire VIP room turned quiet. She took 8 playing cards from the attendant, putting them on the table and took out a new playing card. After a dazzling showcase of card shuffling, she said, "Both sides please examine the cards." No need. Yi Taifu trusted Paradise Club Casino's fairness and directly refused. Tang Xiu also shook his head. He was not afraid of any plays Yi Taifu had. Besides, if Yi Taifu really wanted to showcase his tricks, even if he examined the cards, he wouldn't find anything fishy. The dealer nodded slightly. She cut the end of the cards and sent 3 cards to each player and then put the rest of the cards on the table in front of her. Tang Xiu picked his card and looked at it calmly before he revealed a faint smile. He had observed the dealer when she shuffled the cards. Others might be unable to follow the series of dazzling movements, but he used his spiritual sense and could see it clearly. He even knew the number and pattern of each card in that playing card stack. A pair of 2 and 5 of hearts. Tang Xiu looked at his cards whilst observing Yi Taifu with his spiritual sense. He was satisfied since his card was bigger than his. Yi Taifu only had an ace of spades, 5 of hearts, and 3 of hearts. 1 million. A trace of a smile was revealed on Yi Taifu's face. He grabbed the chips in front of him and pushed them to the deposit spot in the middle of the table. Tang Xiu pretended to hesitate. Then, he also grabbed the chips in front and followed. However, Yi Taifu, who was observing, keenly caught Tang Xiu's split-second expression. He grabbed the chips again and threw them out and said, 2 million. Tang Xiu also directly threw 2 million in chips and said, "I'm in." Yi Tao sneered inside. He looked deeply at Tang Xiu's eyes and threw 2 million in chips again, continue. From his card, Yi Taifu was clearly aware that he only got small cards. But he didn't want to be the first one to pass. Especially since he was also keenly aware of that split-second expression Tang Xiu had, so he guessed that Tang Xiu's cards were definitely small. Besides, this session was only an appetizer. Even if he really lost, it was only a few. Chen Kai had promised him that he would have 500 million for the gambling stake today. I am in. Tang Xiu said again. Yi Taifu sneered as he directly pushed a pile of 10,000 chips to intimidate Tang Xiu, and then spoke in a deep tone, 10 million. This time, Tang Xiu really was startled. He didn't understand where Yi Taifu had that self-confidence to bet 10 million all of a sudden. Added with the previous stakes that he had bet on the table, he had taken 14 million. However, regardless of any intentions he had, his cards were bigger than his, so he didn't cower because of this. 20 million. Tang Xiu pushed his chips and calmly spoke. Yi Taifu's eyebrows slanted. He looked at Tang Xiu's expression. He thought that Tang Xiu was pretending to look calm and only intimidating him to deter his moves. Once again, he pushed 20 million chips and lightly said, "It's just only an appetizer. We don't need to play that big." "Fine, I'll give you 20 million and open your cards." "Are you sure?" Tang Xiu asked calmly. Yi Taifu sneered, "Definitely." "Why don't you open your cards?" Tang Xiu didn't speak but directly opened his cards. In just a split second, Yi Taifu's complexion burned scarlet as an unwilling expression could be seen from his eyes. He could see that he really guessed correctly that Tang Xiu's cards number were small, but they were still bigger and enough to beat his cards. However, as to not let Tang Xiu gain momentum, he pretended to throw the cards in his hands and lightly spoke, as an expert. "I'll give you a leeway to win the first of the 3 games since you're still a youngster, so you can taste the feeling to be a winner. After that, you should mentally prepare yourself." Tang Xiu looked at the stack of chips in the middle of the table. Apart from the 1 million chips deposit, the rest were pushed toward him. A smile surfaced on his face as he nodded and smiled. "Ah, thanks a lot for letting me win. I'll wait and see for the latter." The first win. He won a total of 34 million. He couldn't help sighing after seeing this kind of situation. Winning at gambling sure was easy. It was no wonder that so many people loved to gamble. Besides, getting rich overnight was everyone's dream, nobody would refuse it. A trace of joy appeared on Jia Ruidao's face, who was standing beside Tang Xiu. It was a grand start for Tang Xiu, a good luck and fortune. His 3 apprentices were also smiling as a feeling of joy filled them to the fullest in seeing the Tang Xiu win the first game. A look of astonishment, as well as a flabbergasted expression, was worn by all spectators who watched the battle. Never even once had they ever thought that an unknown youngster would be able to win again the famous Yi Taifu. Even though Yi Taifu said that he gave a leeway to Tang Xiu, but still, everyone could see that it was not his true intentions. Chapter 92, 4 consecutive wins. The second game. The dealer shuffled the cards. After she finished, she looked at Tang Xiu and said, "Since Mr. Tang won the first game, you have the first right to speak." Tang Xiu didn't open his 3 cards this time. It was because he used his spiritual sense to read the cards. He was also able to see Yi Taifu's cards. This ultra-mysterious cheating technique was an absolute divine tool for cheating. 10 million. Tang Xiu opened 10 million chips for the stake and spoke without batting an eye. Seeing that Tang Xiu didn't even open his cards, Yi Taifu didn't want to fall under the wind in an imposing manner. He also didn't open his cards and followed 10 million directly. "I'm in." 20 million. Tang Xiu pushed the chips again without even a blink. Yi Taifu frowned before he pushed 20 million once again and said, "I'll follow." 50 million. Tang Xiu spoke with a calm expression. "What?" Yi Taifu stared blankly as disbelief filled his eyes. He had been diving in professional gambling for more than 20 years. And this was his first time coming across such a type of player like Tang Xiu. This was merely the second game and Tang Xiu didn't even look at his cards, and directly threw 80 million chips in. One must note that the game they were playing was Thai Golden Flower. Tang Xiu had just won 34 million. Summing up with his starting capital, he only had a total of 90 million. In other words, in the case that Yi Taifu followed suit, his cards would be subjected to Tang Xiu's. And this also meant that it would become the last bet in the game. Under his hesitation, his hand extended and traced his 3 cards. 7 of hearts, 7 of spades, 5 of clubs. His biggest cards were only 7 pairs? Yi Taifu was silent for a moment. He pushed 100 million chips and spoke in a deep tone, "I'm in. Open your card." Tang Xiu smiled faintly and opened his cards, Jack of hearts, Jack of spades, and 3 of diamonds. It was a jack pair. In a split moment, Yi Taifu's complexion turned ashen and pale. He had never dreamed that the second game would turn into this kind of situation. It was needless to say that he had lost the game, but he also had lost a total of 131 million. Added with the 34 million from the first game, plus from this short second game, he had lost 165 million. Yi Taifu looked up and glanced at Chen Kai at the side, and saw his unsightly expression. A weak anxious feeling suddenly sprouted in his heart. However, he still believed that it was because Tang Xiu's luck was good. And he simply had yet to use his real gambling skills. Streams of comments came from the spectators in the surroundings. Amazing. Wasn't it just a few minutes? That unknown youngster has won a total of 165 million. I dare say that the speed of making money is even faster than the fastest money printing machine in the entire world. There has always been new genius coming out in each generation everywhere, and a talent that only appears in a decade. Yi Taifu's reputation as a professional gambler in the world has been spreading far and wide. But he unexpectedly lost twice to an unknown youngster. It's indeed the young generation that will surpass the older ones in time. Damn. No wonder so many people like gambling. Money is rolling in fast. Look at me, I couldn't help but want to play a few games. I thought that the game today wasn't worth watching, but only now do I find that I was completely mistaken. I'm really hoping that young man will showcase his skills and create a miracle. Good luck? Could luck be this good? Much less that young man's guts is truly amazing, he didn't even need to see his cards and threw 80 million indirectly. Awesome. At last, I finally experienced it today, that to become a big man, one must have a powerful spirit and soul. Jia Ruidao, as well as his 3 apprentices at Tang Xiu's side, were wild with ecstasy. Even Miao Wenong in the crowd saw him with respect. For Chui and Bai Tao, it was their interest that was sparked. The only one who only had the slightest interest amongst the crowd was perhaps only one person, the owner of this Paradise Club, Ouyang Lulu. She believed that the 2 wins Tang Xiu had were merely because of his good luck. The third game. The dealer shuffled the cards again. After having finished the dealing, she looked at Tang Xiu again. "Master Tang, it's your call, please speak." With his spiritual sense, Tang Xiu had already observed the cards for the both of them vividly. His cards were Jack of spades, and 8 and 2 of hearts. As for Yi Taifu, his 3 cards were King of hearts, and 9 and 5 of clubs. His cards were much inferior to Yi Taifu's. 10 million. Tang Xiu directly opened with 10 million chips with a calm expression. Yi Taifu at this time didn't choose for the dark cards but directly picked up the cards. When he saw his cards, he secretly shook his head and sent a pass sign with his hand and said, "Pass." Tang Xiu smiled faintly as he watched the dealer push the chips at him and said, "You let me win thrice. I hope next time you don't give me leeway anymore." Yi Taifu snorted coldly, "You can count it. I'll make you leave weeping." Tang Xiu replied indifferently, "The game has yet to end. Tongues might be light, but no need to talk big." The fourth game. The dealer shuffled the cards, dealing them and then said, "Mr. Tang, your call, please speak first." With his spiritual sense, Tang Xiu had seen both of their cards. He immediately chuckled secretly inside and directly opened with 10 million chips again and said, 10 million. Yi Taifu was silent for a moment. He also chose a dark card and followed the 10 million stake. Tang Xiu still didn't see his card and pushed 50 million chips. For a moment, Yi Taifu stared blankly. A bad premonition suddenly sprouted in his heart. He firmly trusted his gambling skills. Even if the dealer's dealing gave him small cards, he also had the means to turn the tides. He directly pushed 50 million chips and lightly said, "I'll follow." Tang Xiu straightly pushed all the chips in front of him and spoke with a faint smile, "I have a total of 222 million chips. I'll stake all of them. If you can win this game, I'll leave immediately. If you lose, you can slap your own face with that arrogance of yours. Whichever it is, whether you want to follow or not, it's yours to decide." Yi Taifu's eyelids twitched violently. The bad premonition he felt was getting more intense. Tang Xiu was going all out and pushed out all his chips. That meant that at this time he had staked 161 million. If he followed the stake right now, he must stake the same amount as Tang Xiu, which meant that he chose dark cards. But if he opened his cards, once he lost, he must pay double. What to do now? Follow the stake? Or pass it? Yi Taifu thought for a moment. He finally decided to see the cards: Ace of Diamonds, 8 of Diamonds, 5 of Diamonds. Golden flower? But also a gold? A trace of a smiling expression surfaced on Yan Taifu's curved lips. He directly took out 222 million from his inventory and lightly said, "I'm in. Open your cards." Tang Xiu laughed inside as his fingers flicked the second card out of his 3 cards and instantly shot the pile of cards in front of the dealer in a minuscule split second. That second card ejected another card and remained in the card pile, as the ejected card then hurled at him in an oblique angle. With a lightning-fast movement, he exchanged the card with another card. Naked eyes were unable to see their trajectories. Even experts such as Yi Taifu and Jia Ruidao, as professional gamblers who practiced their visions and had keen eyes, they were unable to sense it in the slightest. However, there was someone amongst the spectators who could see it. He was also a cultivator, Miao Wendong. Nobody knew what had really happened, but Miao Wendong showed a faint expression like a seemingly smile, but not. 3 aces. Tang Xiu opened his cards and spoke lightly. With this, it was very clear that Yi Taifu had lost. Moreover, he lost with principal rules and had no chance to even use his cheating skills to exchange cards. Impossible. Upon seeing the opened cards Tang Xiu had, Yi Taifu suddenly jumped up from his chair. His eyes were staring as though saucers, as disbelief covered his eyes. He had calculated everything. He even had been preparing himself to use his cheating skill. But never in his dreams had he ever thought that Tang Xiu's cards turned out to be 3 aces. How would he change his own cards? Replacing them by the smallest suit of cards of 2, 3, 5? Apart from this suit of cards, no other suit could beat Tang Xiu's. However, he didn't have the preparation to exchange the card to the smallest suit of 2, 3, 5. Tang Xiu looked at Yi Taifu's foolish expression that lost his calm and manners before he lightly said, "What? Maybe you still have a chance to win. Open your cards." Yi Taifu's complexion was as though dying embers. With a blank and dazed expression, he turned to Chen Kai and spoke with great difficulty, "I'm sorry, I lost. I'm powerless to reverse such cards." Powerless to reverse the situation? These words were as though a heavy hammer that severely smashed Chen Kai's mind. Yi Taifu had lost 333 million in this game only. In the last games he already lost 166 million. His total loss was $499 million. He took out $500 million for this game. But in just a short 4 games, the only remaining money was $1 million. This was the appalling result that was unbearable for him. The spectators in the surroundings were suddenly boiling and seething with excitement. Everyone's eyes were fixated on Tang Xiu with disbelief. Their hearts sped up crazily, even the exclamations were becoming more heated than the previous ones. What an amazing show! He walked on stage and got 4 consecutive wins, only leaving the opponent with $1 million? This is it. This must involve a heaven-defying method. There's only one word: awesome. He's the god of gamblers. Yi Taifu is already amazingly powerful. But the moment this young man shot, Yi Taifu was crushed completely. It looks like tonight forwards, this young man called Tang Xiu will absolutely become very famous in the gambling world. He's simply a deity. 4 games and nearly $500 million. This must be the craziest gambling house in the recent years, right? This Tang Xiu is truly unfathomably deep. Yi Taifu has been shamed and disgraced today. Being so rampant and arrogant all the time and finally being made shamelessly. This really reminds me of the saying that the higher one stands, the harder he would fall. It's just like the waves in the sea. The last wave will push the old wave in front of it, and the old ones die after reaching the sand on the beach. Yi Taifu sat back in his chair with a blank and desolate expression as he painfully closed his eyes. He was once a winner who was admired by countless people. But today he had fallen to pieces from up high in the clouds. He was finished, a complete game over. He knew perfectly well that his reputation in the future would fall freely to the abyss. Even if he were to return to the casinos in Macau, the treatment he would get would fall to the extreme. In the crowd, Chu Yi and Bai Tao looked at each other with bewildered expressions. They were quite sure that Yi Taifu absolutely didn't turn his back, because Chen Kai absolutely didn't have this kind of boldness to give Tang Xiu 500 million yuan. However, how could Tang Xiu so easily win? He won 4 times consecutively in such a way. And who was Yi Taifu? Even if they didn't like gambling, they knew the famous Yi Taifu. Chapter 93, The Final Bout. Amongst the spectators, Chu Yi glanced over at Tang Xiu with a bit of admiration and whispered, Long Zhengyu was right. Tang Xiu is really deep and unpredictable. Bai Tao nodded repeatedly and said, True. Now I get the feeling that he will create storms wherever he goes. Either in Everlasting Feast Hall or here, it's the same. It seems like we must find the chance to get to know him. After having silence for a moment, Chu Yi, who was mature and had an excellent mental nature, whispered, I thought that if we take the initiative to do it, he would simply ignore us. If we want to get to know him, we need to find what he wants and likes first. Fine then. We shall investigate him and then see what he needs. That's a good idea. Bai Tao agreed. Ouyang Lulu, who was in front of them, looked at them with an astonished expression. She looked at the winning Tang Xiu and suddenly remembered something. She immediately turned around and asked Chu Yin and Bai Tao behind her, I suddenly recalled something. Didn't you tell me about a young man who was named Tang Xiu? His name and the gambler at this game are the same. Bai Tao smiled, it's even far more than that. They are simply the same person. Say what? Ouyang Lulu was stunned. She never once imagined that the Tang Xiu in front right now was the youngster who was praised by Bai Tao and Chu Yi. The youngster that was able to make the famous professional manager Kong Xia personally rush to Star City from Beijing, and the very same person Long Zhengyu admired. But, who was he? How could he be this amazing? Ouyang Lulu suddenly felt that the little handsome high schooler boy in front of her was shrouded with a mysterious aura. He was as though being shrouded by a thick layer of fog, and it was very hard to see him. Well? Do you still want to play? Tang Xiu pushed all the chips in front of him to the dealer and immediately smiled at Yan Taifu and said, "Let's play." A vicious voice came over. It was not Yi Taifu's but from Chen Kai, who spoke with a furious expression. Tang Xiu shrugged his shoulders and said, "But you have no money. 1 million chips is only enough for the deposit. Do you really think you can play?" Chen Kai took out a piece of jade carved with a coiling dragon and phoenix pattern and shouted with a cold expression, "Having no money doesn't mean that we have no rights. No, continue the gamble. This piece of jade is Jia Ruidao's. So the next gambling house shall determine who's the winner and loser. If you lose, all the chips in front of you are mine, but if you win, this jade pendant is yours." With his keen sense, Tang Xiu was aware that Jia Ruidao's breathing turned faster the moment Chen Kai took the jade out as a wager, as hope could be seen from his eyes. "What's your decision?" Tang Xiu looked at Jia Ruidao and asked. A battle stormed within Jia Ruidao's for quite a long while before he finally clenched his teeth and spoke with quite difficulty, "Do it." Tang Xiu nodded as he looked Chen Kai and said, "Then, I'll accompany you to play again. However, whatever happens, whoever wins or loses, everything will end here, and there will be no debts and grudges between all of us. Deal?" Chen Kai happily complied since he knew the extraordinary background Tang Xiu had, much less he was also a cultivator. Even if Tang Xiu did not say it, he would not dare to easily offend him. Tang Xiu glanced at the dealer as he nodded and asked, "What kind of play do you want to have our game on now?" To recollect his state of mind and increase his confidence again, Yi Taifu spoke with a deep tone, "You are the winner of the previous games, so I'll give you the rights to choose." Tang Xiu asked with a strange tone, "Are you really sure?" Yi Taifu replied with a firm self-confident, "Yes." Tang Xiu shifted his sight toward the dealer and said lightly, "I'll have to trouble you to prepare new playing cards." The dealer nodded and took out new playing cards. He handed it over to Tang Xiu and asked, "How do you want to play?" Tang Xiu looked at Yi Taifu and said, "Gambling skills are nothing but having keen eyesight, hearing, and fast hands. We are the people that walk on the path of the god of gamblers. Let us ask the dealer to throw this set of playing cards into the air and then we move at the same time, grab a card each and then compare our cards. The one who gets the biggest card is the winner, and the smallest one will be a loser. What say you?" Yan Taifu was quite surprised. He had never once expected that Tang Xiu would choose an unconventional method, even choosing this kind of play. He was well known as a gambler with quick hands and eyes. That was needless to say since he had eyes with the sharpness and keenness of an eagle. "I agree." Tang Xiu nodded and said, "Then, let us begin." The dealer looked at Tang Xiu and Yan Taifu and then said, "The two of you, please come along with me to the open area at the side. I'll ask everyone to move 3 meters of distance from each line. Each one of you will stand on the line, and I will throw the playing cards upwards. Each one of you grab one card at the same time and the one who wins this game will be the one with the biggest card." "Fine." Agreed. Tang Xiu and Yan Taifu nodded at the same time. Chen Kai was still shrouded in his anger amongst the spectators. Upon hearing the game that would be played by Tang Xiu and Yi Taifu, he was somewhat anxious and agitated. He felt that something was not right and was unable to pinpoint the amiss. He could not say anything for a moment and could only glare with an unsightly face toward Jia Ruidao, as he and his 3 apprentices wore happy expressions. "Isn't this like some kind of redemption?" From another direction, Miao Wendong was at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry as he looked at Yi Taifu with an expression full of sympathy. Others might be unaware about Tang Xiu like he was. Such a person who was amazingly able to break through the 6 layers of the 1,000 revolution array was definitely very strong. Regardless of eyesight or hand speed, his level was absolutely high. A few minutes later, the dealer stood in the middle between Tang Xiu and Yi Taifu. She looked at the two of them and then said, "Both of you, I'm ready to throw the playing cards and I hope the both of you are able to grab the key point for this game. Now, I'll count in 3 in reverse. The moment I count to the last number, I'll scatter the playing cards to the air. 3, 2, 1, 0. The dealer threw her arm and tried her best to scatter all the cards in her heart over the top of her head. Humph. Before the dealer scattered the cards, Tang Xiu's spiritual sense had already firmly locked onto the king card. After the cards had been scattered, he moved lightning fast and caught the king card even though the card had yet to reach its peak. Almost at the instant the cards were thrown upwards, he had caught it and landed from his jump. As for another side, Yi Taifu's movement was slower by a few seconds than Tang Xiu's. His eyes spun faster, seeking to find the king card. When he saw Tang Xiu moved first, his complexion suddenly changed and made him hesitate. He did not see the king card but saw a jack. In that instant, his body jumped into the air and successfully caught the jack card as he continued looking at the scattering cards everywhere. 10 seconds later, the remaining cards had all dropped to the floor with some cards opened and some facing down. The dealer walked back between the two of them. She smiled and said, "The two of you have already grabbed the cards you want. And now I hope that the two of you will show the cards you've taken." Yan Taifu still did not find that king card, neither did he find it amongst the face-up cards on the floor. Anxiousness slightly invaded his heart as he looked at the expressionless Tang Xiu. He secretly prayed inside and hoped that Tang Xiu did not grab the king card. Otherwise, he really would have a crushing defeat. Jack. King. The both of them showed the cards in their hands at the same time. In this split second, Yi Taifu's heart as though had fallen into an ice cave, as his body turned stiff as a stone. His complexion no longer revealed an apprehensive and anxious expression, but a strong disbelief and pain. This was the final bout. The last lifeline for him to grasp onto. But now, only then did he realize that the last line of hope he longed for, turned out to be unable to help him, but viciously stamp him into pieces instead. Wasn't this the same as though adding fuel to the fire? Wasn't this successive misfortunes that were fallen one after another? This last game was precisely the perfect manifestation of these words. Whoosh. The atmosphere suddenly boiled as everyone's complexion and eyes were burning hot. And the one that they were looking at was Tang Xiu, not Yi Taifu. Eyesight and fast hands. These were the most fundamental as well as the most important abilities gambling masters must have. But at present, Tang Xiu had shown that he did not rely on chances or luck. But he relied on his ability to win this game. The fact made everyone who thought that Tang Xiu's previous wins were only completely on luck, completely changed at this moment. For masters to move, luck only accounted for a few points, with gambling skills playing the major role. The so-called out of 10 games, would end up with 9 losses, was because the others gamble and bet on 8 cheatings. With a sympathizing expression in her eyes, the dealer quickly looked at Yi Taifu and then spoke. "Mr. Tang has picked the king and Mr. Yi the jack. So I announce that this game's winner is Mr. Tang." Puff. The anxiousness and extreme anger created a severe mental attack for Yan Taifu. Under such a huge psychological blow, a mouthful of blood sprayed out from his mouth as his eyes blackened and he fell backward with a stiff body. Fucking waste. Chen Kai's complexion was ashen and unsightly. He was like a wild dog as he looked down at Yi Taifu. Not only did he not sympathize with him, but instead rushed over and kicked him ferociously a few times. For this gamble, he had lost both the money he won from Jia Ruidao and even lost his initial capital, which drove him to be very angry. What the hell? This Chen Kai is so shameless? Only able to accept wins and cannot afford to lose? Even though Yi Taifu did lose very miserably today, but he has helped him win quite a fortune before. But now he treats others like this because he lost? What a damn bastard behavior. The Chen family is really thick-skinned. He really deserves to lose. Only using people who are only useful to him and throwing them out when they have no other uses anymore. What a shameless bastard. This really makes my blood boils. That's it. I have decided to terminate every business relations with the Chen family. Such kind of attitude and moral in all likelihood is no different from how the Chen family will treat others. It's really a pity for Yi Taifu. A master gambler of this age could even fall to this kind of a miserable fate. Bah. How I really want to fuck Shen Kai up. He nevertheless is still one of the honored and famous people of Jingmen Island, but to not have the slightest elegant demeanor at all is unexpected. I was really fooled by him. This Chen Kai bastard has stained our Jingmen Island's face with filth. If you lose then just lose, take the wins and lost with equanimity. Is there any need to make such a despicable act? He's way too fucking outrageous. He simply has no sense of shame. Chapter 94, Driven Out. Chu Yi and Bai Tao were looking at Chen Kai with a disgusted expression at the moment. They were secretly regretting the trip to this murky and muddy water of Jingmen Island, and then left quietly after the gambling house ended. As for the Paradise Club's owner, Ouyang Lulu, she did not stay any longer and looked at Chen Kai with contemptuous looks before wandering for a moment and finally, fixating her eyes on Tang Xiu. She looked deeply at him before she chased Chu Yi and Bai Tao. She wanted to hear more about Tang Xiu from them, as to why she could not see through Tang Xiu. Crystal tears dripped down from Jia Ruidao's eyes, who just received his wife's memento, the coiling dragon and phoenix carved jade pendant. Previously, he thought his life was over. Not only did he lose his fortune, but also had huge debts outside, he even lost the last memento from his wife. However, Tang Xiu's win gave him the feeling of going back to heaven from hell. Brother Tang. Thank you. Jia Ruidao's voice was somewhat masked with sobs, but a thick and deep sense of gratitude filled his every word. Tang Xiu had neither been accustomed nor could he bear to have others be grateful to him. He also was not used to communicating with others in this way. He apathetically shook his head and said, "Come on, let's us just go back to the hotel. Moreover, if possible, it's best for you to book a plane ticket and schedule it in advance for me to go back to Star City tonight or tomorrow's flight." Jia Ruidao quickly said, "Brother Tang, Long, said that he has helped you get your 1-week holiday. Only 2 days have passed, so you don't need to rush back that quick. Besides, we need to exchange the winning money and transfer them to your bank account. Another thing is, I must express my thanks and take you to wander around Jingmen Island and have your time well spent here. You might not know that Jingmen Island has a lot of good places to visit. And I promise that you'll like it." This, Tang Xiu hesitated. He hadn't the slightest interest in the fun places Jingmen Island might have. His biggest interest was that huge sum of money. From the previous agreement between him and Jia Ruidao, he would get half of that 500 million gambling money. Upon seeing Tang Xiu's hesitation, Gong Daolong quickly said, "Master Tang, my master's words are true. We need to exchange the chips into money and then transfer them into our bank account. That would take some time. I also know a private manor which not only has a beautiful scenery but also has precious wild carnivorous meat. I heard that a few days ago, the manor has hired more than 10 martial art experts to hunt down a sea spirit flood dragon on a nearby island. This private manor has been established for more a few years, and this is the second time they have gotten a sea flood dragon. The first time they got one, I heard from a lot of people who have eaten the sea flood dragon meat that the meat was very delicious. The sea spirit flood dragon would do." Tang Xiu's eyes brightened up as his heart thumped with excitement. He was in dire need of various parts of fierce beasts for his cultivation, such as skin, flesh and blood, bones, sharp claws and many other things. He needed all of these basic ingredients to refine the body refining liquid. Especially if he could come across a higher grade of fierce beast, He would be able to refine a higher grade of medication that would be most suitable for concocting the Golden Bell liquid, to aid his cultivation in skin strengthening stage. What is that villa? Tang Xiu asked. Gong Daolong replied with a smile, seaside straight manner. Tang Xiu asked again, when can we go? Gong Daolong quickly said, if you still have the time, we'll wait for this ship tomorrow and then we can immediately go there. Tang Xiu nodded and said, fine, I'll stay in Jingmen Island for 2 more days. However, I need a good rest in the passenger cabin and I don't want anyone to disturb me. With a respectful manner, Gong Daolong replied, you can rest assured that we will never let anyone disturb you. But you'll need to tell us your bank account number, so we can transfer you the money after we exchange the chips. All right. Tang Xiu sent his bank account number to Gong Daolong through his mobile device and then left the VIP private room under the gazes of a lot of people. However, he did not return to his room and instead came toward the guest area on the aft deck, overlooking the distance of the rough sea with billowing high waves, while feeling the blowing breeze as he suddenly felt a sense of comfort spontaneously. He had always been busy recently. So many things happened and he had to run around and was rarely idle whilst thinking about his next steps. Moreover, it was as though a pair of invisible hands were holding him and dragging him forward unceasingly. He did not like this kind of feeling of having no control over a lot of things. If I can return to the peak, I'll change this fart of a heavenly law in this world. Beams of light brought along a coldness within flashed inside Tang Xiu's eyes as he felt some helplessness inside his heart. A lonesome and a very quiet place here. A clear-pitched voice suddenly sounded behind Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu turned his head and found the Paradise Club's owner, Ouyang Lulu. Looking at her appearance, she seemed to be only a few years older than him with graceful and smiling looks. Tang Xiu replied with an indifferent expression, this place is indeed very good. Ouyang Lulu observed Tang Xiu and said with a smile, congratulations for winning the gambling house. Tang Xiu shook his head and did not speak again. He did not want to be disturbed by anyone at the moment, but Ouyang Lulu now came here and it gave her some frustration. If it was not for Ouyang Lulu's identity, he could have immediately driven her away. Do you feel disturbed and not want me here? Ouyang Lulu was a sensitive person and she was keenly aware of Tang Xiu's attitude and immediately asked. Tang Xiu said indifferently, I just want to be alone and have some quiet time. Ouyang Lulu was quite annoyed and angry. She had come across countless men ever since her childhood and they fell for her, wave after wave. Even those who pretended to repel her, but actually wished to be the one who could be her man in their heart. However, what she felt from Tang Xiu was really repelling her, and that she was really unwanted here and it was kind of the same as having no interest in her. Hey, are you still a man? Under her anger, Ouyang Lulu boldly asked this question. However, the moment she finished speaking, only then did she realize that she had lost her manner and was secretly regretting it. Tang Xiu looked at Ouyang Lulu with cold and detached eyes, and he then said indifferently, whether I am a man or not, do you really want to try? I don't mind to have a one-night stand with you though. You. Ouyang Lulu was furious as she looked at the detached and cold expression on Tang Xiu's complexion. She almost lifted her feet to send out a fierce kick to Tang Xiu's face. However, she knew about her fighting prowess as she then took a deep breath and turned away. A few hours later. After having returned to his room, an SMS came and 250 million had been transferred to his bank account. Jia Ruidao and his 3 apprentices are really bound by their promises it seems. There was not the slightest ripples inside Tang Xiu's heart because of this huge sum of money. Wealth was but only a tool to aid his cultivation. If it were not because he needed money to buy a lot of things for his cultivation, he would have ignored wealth and money. Even if there was a mountain of gold and silver, it would never be able to make him care and glance over at it. At Paradise Club, inside the general manager's office. Ouyang Lulu was sitting in the boss chair with a furious expression as shattered glasses could be seen under her feet, because she smashed her teacup. Never once had she ever dreamed that Tang Xiu would blatantly disregard her. She was eager to get close and try to get to know him after having been trailing Tang Xiu from a surveillance video. And he was even thinking of such a disgusting thing even though he was that young. Men are really some fucking bastards. One would only really know someone's true nature after having known them for a long time. Ouyang Lulu secretly whispered inside. Knock, knock, knock. The door was knocked on. Come in. Ouyang Lulu quickly adjusted her iffy mood and spoke. The door was pushed open as Chui and Bai Tao then came in the office smiling. They casually sat on the sofa at the office corner and watched Ouyang Lulu personally serve and pour tea for them. Then, Bai Tao asked, fellow classmate, you have gone experiencing it yourself today, haven't you? We did tell you that Tang Xiu is unfathomably unpredictable and deep. But still, we have never thought that he would win today's gambling house so easily. Ouyang Lulu lightly replied from the side whilst serving the tea, he only has some ability, but he's way too arrogant of a man. I just don't like him. Chui grinned and said. I did say Lulu is the type of big beautiful lady. It's all right for you to not like him, but I do think that there are a lot of women that like him. Haven't you seen today, a lot of young and beautiful women were watching Tang Xiu with hot and burning eyes, full of feeling? Ouyang Lulu coldly snorted and said, bah, could those women be compared to me? Chui stared blankly for a moment before he involuntarily laughed and said, true, if you were as though a fresh flower, then they could be regarded as green foxtail grass and there's no way for you to be compared. However, judging from your tone it's as though you've met alone with Tang Xiu, yes? Ouyang Lulu replied with a snap, damn right, I've met him. But only to find him a bastard. I know men are shameless, but such a shameless bastard like Tang Xiu is really rare to find. Chui and Bai Tao looked at each other whilst a strong interest in their hearts was suddenly ignited. Old friend, what did Tang Xiu do to you? Bai Tao asked curiously. Yes. I know that Tang Xiu is extremely bold, so what kind of wicked deeds has Tang Xiu done to you? Chui also quickly asked. Ouyang Lulu rolled her eyes as she looked at the both of them before she replied snappily, he dares to. Afterward, she told everything her meeting process with Tang Xiu from beginning to end and then concluded with her final words with an angry and agitated tone, now you tell me, is he still a man? This grand lady's looks is like a very beautiful flower, an outstanding beauty, even a lot of men want me. But that Tang Xiu blatantly disregarded this grand lady and that is way too outrageous. If this grand lady has a little bit of prowess in martial arts, I could have given him a hard-to-forget lesson. Don't. Bai Tao quickly interrupted. Chui also quickly said, old friend, I tell you, just forget about teaching Tang Xiu a lesson in your mind. And ignore it, really. You don't know that Tang Xiu is way more powerful than you can imagine. Looking at the panicked reaction from the both of them, Ouyang Lulu was quizzical and then said, huh? What happened to the both of you? Even if Tang Xiu is really powerful, but he only has 2 arms and legs, there's no way he has a superhuman power and has 3 heads and 6 arms, am I right? Chui let out a forced and wry smile and said, that Tang Xiu is way more powerful than a superhuman with 3 heads and 6 arms. You are the local boss of Jingmen Island, so you should have heard about the Everlasting Feast Hall, right? Of course I know about it. I've even seen the little boss of that Everlasting Feast Hall. I even had a meal, drank, and chatted with her all day. But, what do you want to tell me with all these things? Ouyang Lulu said. Chapter 95, Unexpected Surprise. Chui looked at Ouyang Lulu deeply as he spoke with a deep tone, old friend. Your Ouyang family's strength on Jingmen Island should be ranked as one of the best and your intelligence network is also unmatched here. So you should have heard the event at the Everlasting Feast Hall last night, yes? Ouyang Lulu was surprised and said, of course. But tell me what's the meaning of this? Chu Yi said, last night, 3 masters challenged the Thousand Revolution Array in Everlasting Feast Hall, and one of them was Tang Xiu, and he was the one that amazingly broke through to the 6th layer of the Thousand Revolution Array. What? Ouyang Lulu suddenly stood up as the half-empty teacup in her hands dropped from midair, sprinkling the tea water and its leaves. She had quite a close relationship with Gu Xiaoxue, the Jingmen Island's Everlasting Feast Hall's little boss. She has been friends with her for nearly a decade. Although their relationship was not as close as a boudoir friend, however, they knew each other very well. Ouyang Lulu knew about the Thousand Revolution Array and was aware that only a few capable and powerful cultivators were able to challenge the array. Had it been for average people, the probability that they could have died in there was high. Cultivator? Tang Xiu is a cultivator? The news caught Ouyang Lulu off guard and made her shocked. But it was certain that it was not because of Tang Xiu's identity as a cultivator but much more to the fact that he had broken into the 6th layer of the Thousand Revolution Array. That was the 6th layer. What kind of terrifying strength must one have to break into it? The fact was that the Thousand Revolution Array had been deployed for more than a decade, but nobody had been able to break to the 6th floor. Chu Yi looked at the shocked Ouyang Lulu and said with a smile, old friend, now you should understand why I stopped you, right? I couldn't see through this guy, but I can be sure of one thing, that he's really powerful to the point that it is outrageous and could make your blood boil. So don't go provoking him. A person like him could only be a friend and never be an enemy. Ouyang Lulu's sensual red lips wriggled a few times before she finally let out a forced smile helplessly. What you said is true. Had I offended this kind of expert, let alone myself, even my entire family would be unable to face it. More than 20 years ago, a large family in northwest China had offended a fearful master and caused their entire family to be killed overnight, and not even one of their lines remain. Chu Yi was astonished and said, you even know of this matter? Hasn't this matter been suppressed by the country's godfather as to not divulge it to the public? Ouyang Lulu whispered, my great-uncle was the person who was responsible for dealing with this matter during that time. Your great-uncle is the godfather? Chu Yi and Bai Tao exclaimed in unison. Ouyang Lulu waved and said, what the hell are you talking about? What's the godfather's surname and ours? What I mean is the godfather sent my great-uncle to process the funeral. Ah. So that's what happened. Chu Yi and Bai Tao immediately understood. Ouyang Lulu then said, but what I really don't understand is, how Jia Ruidao would know such a powerful person. And Tang Xiu is this powerful despite his young age. If it were his school or sex elders and masters, how terrifyingly powerful would their cultivation base be? Elders and masters of the sect? Cultivation base? Chu Yi and Bai Tao looked at Ouyang Lulu with a puzzled expression. Ouyang Lulu rolled her eyes as she looked at them and snapped, haven't you had realized that Tang Xiu is a cultivator? Don't tell me that with your family's intelligence network you don't know such people existence in the world. Chu Yi and Bai Tao were petrified. Cultivators. They had heard about these people but have never seen them. Coming across such people from legend could be said as their blessing and fortune. It was normal to not meet them. But at the moment, Ouyang Lulu said that Tang Xiu was a cultivator. It caused their hearts to be stormed by heavy waves. However, the more they carefully thought about it, the more they could tell that Ouyang Lulu was right. Tang Xiu was this powerful, and if he were not a cultivator, could normal people even be able to achieve things that were almost impossible to achieve? Damn, this won't do. We must investigate Tang Xiu immediately and find out what he needs. If we cannot take advantage while he's still young and have a good relationship with him, once he's truly grown, it would be extremely difficult for us to do so. Chu Yi spoke with a decisive tone. Bai Tao also nodded and said, I'll immediately pass the news back to my family. Even if I have to use the entire family's contact, we must find out what Tang Xiu wants. Even if we use all the means we have and cannot be a genuine friend with him, we still must do everything possible and let him owe us a big favor. Correct. Chu Yi heavily nodded. Ouyang Lulu looked at their serious expressions as her mind was also rotating faster. She had guessed Tang Xiu's true identity, so how would the idea did not cross her mind? After drifting for a night, the luxurious passenger cruiser finally moored at Jingmen Island port at noon on the second day. Along with the leaving guests, Tang Xiu, Jia Ruidao, and his apprentices leisurely left the passenger cruiser. Lunch was about to arrive, but the 5 people did not stay as they took a car and went to the Seaside Strait Manor. It was because Gong Daolong had made a call when they were still at sea to book a private box in advance, so they decided to have lunch at Seaside Strait Manor, Jingmen Island West Coast. It was a magnificent and large villa area, and the Seaside Strait Manor was located in this place. 2 cars arrived at the entrance and was only allowed to pass after having gone through inspection. The thing that made Tang Xiu surprised was that there were a lot of security personnel at this place, patrolling everywhere. Each one of them was very strong and had extremely steady footsteps, signifying that they were obviously skilled martial artists. What is the origin of this Seaside Strait Manor? Tang Xiu was sitting in the back seat as he asked and looked at Jia Ruidao, who sat in the passenger seat. Jia Ruidao said, I'm also unclear about their specific origin. However, I do know that the master of this Seaside Strait Manor came from Beijing and has been here for business for more than 20 years. It has a powerful force and influence. But in the recent years, since the master of the manor is very old and his health is deteriorating, the one who manages the manor right now is his son, Tang Dong. Tang Xiu nodded as he spoke with great interest. I really want to see the master of this manor to talk about some topics. We might have something in common. Jia Ruidao involuntarily laughed and then said, Brother Tang, meeting the master of this manor is probably quite difficult. I don't know how many dignitaries in Jingmen Island wish to visit but were shut out. I have heard that even some government big shots must make an appointment in advance for half a month, before they can get half-an-hour meeting opportunities. They are that arrogant? Tang Xiu asked with astonishment. Jia Ruidao replied with a smile, it's not that they are arrogant though, but it's because they truly have a huge background, so they showcase their strong capital. In fact, I can guess their origin, but I'm not 100% sure about the reliability. Tang Xiu said, tell me your guesses. Jia Ruidao said, they are surnamed Tang. And the only big family surnamed Tang is the Tang family from Beijing. Tang Xiu said, is this respected family from Beijing really that powerful? Jia Ruidao replied without hesitation, yes. They are very powerful to the point that they could be called terrifying. I think that there are only 5 families in the entire country that could be compared to the Tang family's power and influence. Just think about it. Amongst 145 million families in the entire country, only 5 families have equal power and influence to the Tang family, so you can imagine how strong they are. Well, it's indeed very strong. Tang Xiu nodded and said. Having entered the manor's interior, the 2 cars stopped inside a wide parking lot as 4 big middle-aged men in a suit quickly stepped and greeted them, quickly opening the car's door for everyone. Welcome. A middle-aged man with glasses had been waiting in this place as brilliant beams of light flashed from his eyes from time to time, as he said with a smile. Jia Ruidao surprised, Chief Hu. How come you personally? Hu Xinyu laughed, I've heard Grandmaster Jia has returned triumphantly from the Paradise Club, so it's natural that I have to greet you. Besides, I also have to pay my tribute toward the gambling grandmasters. Jia Ruidao said with a smile, Chief Hu, you are really fast on the news. Come, let me introduce you to Brother Tang. He's the one who helped me in winning the gambling house. Brother Tang, this is the experienced reception manager of this seaside straight manor, Hu Xinyu. Hu Xinyu observed Tang Xiu. Although he already received the news that Tang Xiu was young, but he never imagined that he was young to this degree. A bright smile was revealed on his complexion as he quickly extended his hand to shake and said, "Welcome, Mr. Tang. You are honoring us with your presence. About your elegance in the casino, it has been passed to my ears yesterday. Had it been you were not in the Paradise Club and still at sea, I could have immediately rushed over to learn from you. You're too polite." Tang Xiu had never liked social niceties, but still, he extended hands and could not slap people who smiled at him. Since the other passionately greeted him, it would be better to give face to the host. Hu Xinyu said with a smile, "Gentlemen, please come with me. Your private box and meal have already been prepared, so you can have your meals soon." Shortly after, under Hun Xinyu's lead, everyone came to a luxury villa designed in full European style. Only then did Tang Xiu realize that each villa in this manor area was used to entertain a group of guests. "Please wait, I'll call the kitchen to quickly serve the meal." "Please wait." Tang Xiu stopped Hu Xinyu. "Mr. Tang, do you have some orders in mind?" Hu Xinyu asked. Tang Xiu said, "Could you recommend me to the old master of Seaside Straight Manor? I'd like to see him." "This?" Hu Xinyu hesitated. After a short moment, only then did he speak with a forced and wry smile, "Mr. Tang, our old master is old, and in the recent years he avoided to pay attention to outside affairs. So, this request is out of my capabilities." Tang Xiu was silent for a moment and said, "Since I cannot see your old master, but it should not be a problem to introduce me to see the person in charge, Tang Dong, yes? I have a few questions I want to ask him." Hu Xinyu said, "I shall convey your request to our boss. If he is willing to see you, you'll hear the news from me." "Thanks," Tang Xiu said. A loud and clear voice suddenly sounded from outside of the villa as a figure appeared at the villa hall's door a few seconds after. "The heavens are measureless and unpredictable. This poor monk comes uninvited and hopes for gentlemen to forgive."